Hello and welcome to the 24th episode of the Meet the Entrepreneur podcast. This is ARTEEN ZAHIRI and I am the host of this feature. Today we are speaking with Peter Venti, founder of FamilyMeal. FamilyMeal supports a drastically improved economic model for chefs and restaurateurs so that we can all focus on more exciting experiences and deeper relationships. As the startup expands its marketplace for the best local restaurant offerings, it does so with reverence to community, hospitality, and fun. Right off the bat, for our audience, it would be great if you could, introduce yourself, tell us about your background. We'd love to hear how you got interested in restaurants, and what ultimately drove you to become an entrepreneur and start FamilyMeal.
Sure. Well, my name is Peter Venti. I'm the founder of FamilyMeal. Before that, I grew up in New Jersey, wanting to be a professional chef my entire life. I hit the time where the Food Network was getting really popular, and I lived close enough to New York City where I could see like celebrity chef rise, and I knew in my heart that's what I wanted to do. So when I was 14, I got my first cooking job. I did it throughout high school, throughout college, after college, and in the end, I was just like a B- cook. I was not the best in the kitchen. I was getting paid minimum wage. It's not an easy job physically, mentally, as well documented in the Hulu series The Bear recently. But I actually kind of had my first epiphany when I was working at my last restaurant and I built their website for them. And we saw more traffic to the business, and the owners had never been so nice to me. And so I was like, maybe I don't need to cook to be in the restaurant industry. I wanted to make a difference, and plating beautiful food and making delicious things just wasn't it for me. So I kind of made the decision, hey, instead of getting paid minimum wage, let me try to make as much money as possible and be a restaurant owner. That seems more fun. And so I worked in finance for 4 years and kind of clicked buy or sell every single day. And the money paid much better than cooking, but I found it very unfulfilling. And it was so disconnected to hospitality, which is where I always wanted to be. But it did afford me to, one, go out to a lot of cool restaurants, meet a lot of interesting, chefs and owners. And then I did get connected fortuitously to an entrepreneur, restaurateur, and really smart guy who was a former trader as well, who owns the Alinea Group in Chicago, and was fortunate enough to kind of beg for a position and job and see how one of the most successful restaurant groups in the country and most acclaimed individual restaurants, how they operated. The structure of that team, the kind of boundless or unlimited kind of opportunities that they saw, outside the four walls of the restaurants, was really what made me think that this is an industry I could have huge impact on. It's kind of a dinosaur. It's a pretty bad business model. You spend a lot of money to open up a lemonade stand, and then you hope people show up. And then there's only so many seats, and there's razor thin margins. And it's like, what if we just stripped that all away? How would we run a restaurant group? I was lucky enough to meet some other entrepreneurs in the space who had recently formed a consulting firm, kind of with the same philosophy and the same vision that I had, which was, let's blow up this whole thing and make this industry not so miserable for people. And so I ended up kind of managing and growing that firm for 6 years until we sold to one of our clients, which was a really fun experience. Ultimately started working for the parent company and going from a startup and small company that is wholly owned to kind of a big, massive 50,000 employee company that has a lot of bureaucracy and maybe at times can tolerate more mediocrity, was just not where I operate. And so decided to leave and start my own restaurant technology company. It was clear to me that the current landscape of food tech is dominated by Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, no offense to any of the HBS listeners, but generally people from Stanford, Harvard, consulting backgrounds, investment banking backgrounds, really smart people, able to solve complex issues on paper. But I found very few of them had actually worked in a restaurant. And so that's why I started Family Meal. I thought I could solve it on paper and I could understand the actual needs of a kitchen, the employees, the people that this technology ultimately affects.
Really appreciate that background. Thanks for sharing. And with Family Meal, because obviously working in the restaurant industry has always been challenging. A lot of those challenges were further, magnified during COVID-19. And we saw how important it was for restaurants to really be like as digital as possible, as flexible and nimble as possible to meet, changing consumer expectations just to survive in such a difficult environment. So with that, I feel like a lot of different restaurant tools out there kind of popped up, especially around, online ordering, or maybe like digital marketing, virtual brands, ghost kitchens, just a lot of new kind of concepts really got popular during around the time that Family Meal got started. And you mentioned like building websites, for example. So I'm curious, because a lot of these tools seem to have overlapping features and benefits. What exactly does Family Meal provide? And specifically, what does Family Meal provide that's unique, and that other kind of tools out there are missing the mark and you were able to fill in those gaps?
Sure. So I think that you touched on an important point, which is, restaurants were trying new things. They were kind of unshackled during the pandemic forcefully to make money however they could. And what happened was it allowed them to experiment freely and create new channels for their business that was not the airplane butts and seats, let's turn tables and we'll serve this for takeout if you call. Let's rethink the whole thing. And so Family Meal is an online ordering platform amongst thousands, that really tries to be extraordinarily dynamic and allow a restaurant to continue what they're doing, but then build on top of it. What I see with a lot of other tools and companies, not to knock them all, I recommended a lot of them for a long time to our clients. They kind of just pigeonhole people into one business model. This is how a restaurant operates. This is how the tool kind of forces you into the existing model. They all make incremental improvements, but with Family Meal, we want you to be able to not just do takeout, delivery, dine in. We want you to do catering. We want you to do pop-ups, collaborations, nationwide shipping of products, wholesale to other restaurants, meal prep subscriptions, private clubs. We are just kind of like this open source free platform for restaurants, and we're still figuring it out. I want to see what's next for the industry. So it's kind of like, we're going to let you use this tool however you want. We'll observe and consult and help. But really, we want to learn what's next and what's going to work for the restaurant, what's going to work for the diner, and support however possible we can.
Yeah, I love that you enable restaurants to try new things, tap into different streams of revenue, like you said, meal kits, catering. Obviously, there was a lot of buzz recently around, virtual brands, ghost kitchens, pop-ups. What are some, and I know you're still figuring this out, but what are some types of revenue streams that you're most excited about, that you think are going to become a lot more mainstream in the future?
Yeah, I hope that it's really specific to the restaurant, their values and their brand, and they are able to create extensions, not just because there's a new tool out, but because it makes sense for their individual business. So I'd like seeing restaurateurs take more control and demand more from the technology that they use. We do have people using us for ghost concepts. We've helped kind of fine tune those brands. I can give an example of a seafood restaurant that does not want their, high-end monkfish traveling in, someone else's car for 40 minutes to be delivered. You get such a bad customer experience and it's totally out of your control. And so we help them create a steam pot with all the fish in it, not cooked, some par cooked, corn, potatoes, andouille sausage, and so that someone can actually take that, put it on their stove, and finish it at home. It's a new brand, same ingredients. They're able to, prep in the morning, so it's not affecting the dinner rush. And it's just like a perfect extension of their business. So we love supporting that. It's they never thought they would do that before the pandemic, but then they tried third-party delivery. It was a disaster, and so opening people's eyes to what's next. I hope it's not just one app or one piece of software that is guiding it. I hope it's the restaurants choosing to use technology in a way that's appropriate for them.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a really cool use case of a restaurant using technology to offer their own meal kits and have a lot more control. It sounds a lot better in this case than going with the third party delivery. Yeah, so you have like a number of restaurants now using using the platform, and I guess would you say it's kind of like in terms of adoption, restaurants are using it for a lot of different use cases? Is there any themes that are like particularly common, or what are some of your initial like observations and feedback you've received so far?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I'm in meetings every day with restaurateurs, and even yesterday it's kind of came up where they're like, okay, yeah, I can put my catering menu up for online ordering. I understand that. What is something new I can do? Teach me. Um, and we talked through our ideas for FamilyMeal and how ultimately we want to be a marketplace of everything that's exciting, relevant, new. And in order to do that, we need to kind of figure out what's going to stick long term. Are prepared meal kits from restaurants going to become a national phenomenon? I'm not sure. I don't pretend to know. But one of the common things that independent restaurants, chefs, delis, whatever it is, are asking for is more marketing power. And if you go on Uber Eats, Grubhub, Seamless, generally seeing Chipotle, McDonald's, not Domino's, but other Subway, other big brands that can afford the digital real estate. And so they always want more eyeballs if they're going to try something new. If they're going to do a prepared meal subscription, they can put it on their website and they'll get some of their existing customers, but they all ask for more. And one of our ideas is that we can combine them. We can aggregate independent restaurants digitally into restaurant groups and share customers, share customer lists, not cannibalize each other's businesses, but take their collective power and kind of utilize that in marketing. That's something I think is going to be really big. And it's very tricky, and they're not all friends, but I think having a marketplace for only independent restaurants and only interesting things that they're doing, that's where we feel like the biggest opportunity is.
That's really interesting. I'm curious, yeah, because like you said, some of these restaurants, especially like in local markets, may view each other as competitors, so not wanting to do that. But as you expand, you definitely open it up a lot more. And what does the like business model, revenue model look like? Do you charge restaurants to be on the platform and take advantage of these marketplace features, or how does that work exactly?
Right now, our business model is that the restaurant is able to create a FamilyMeal account, put out their menus, and start selling within 15 minutes. It's the fastest onboarding time of any food tech company I think out there. And that also has some limitations, but we just require them to connect to a payment processor. We don't want to take on that kind of liability. And so it's very simple. Our fee is attached to the diner. So we charge 3% on the diner side at checkout. There have been zero complaints, thank God. Our investors, would say that that's a problem. That means your price too low. But for me, it's, the restaurants have been charged an arm and a leg. They've been charged for the features they don't use. Let's give it to them for free. And let's create a really convenient way of ordering things that generally had to be ordered over the phone or email or DM. And so we're finding a lot of success with that. Once the marketplace is there, we will have to charge a restaurant for that kind of lead generation. But I think that what we want to do is become better at marketing and advertising than they are. For a lot of small mom and pops and independents, they don't have a marketing team. Sometimes they have like a niece who's 14 and on her phone, like that's social media manager, because it's really expensive to hire someone now. The demand for good marketers is so high that the price just went up. But if we can get really efficient for them in advertising to new diners, then we will charge a lead generation fee if it comes through us.
Yeah, extremely restaurant friendly setup and pricing for sure. And even on the
Yeah,
diner side, that fee's like significantly less than what you'd pay on Postmates or Uber Eats for delivery with all the service fees, technology fees they have.
definitely. Our average check is about 5 times higher than those companies. So the fee, it can look a little big sometimes. But at the same time, you would have had to call, order, hope that the restaurant remembers, your $250 catering. That's the right date. They don't need
Yep.
any other information from you. And people just like the convenience of ordering online. That's not going to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot more convenient and efficient for sure. Because all the time, like whenever my family would need to make like catering orders for like birthday parties, since it was all done over the phone, there was like no paper trail. So we'd show up at the restaurant and everything was wrong and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, my family, for Christmas Eve, we always have like a traditional Italian, 7 fish feast. We go to the same fish market, and every year they forget our order. And I go there, and I think that might be like one of the things driving this company.
Do
It's
you
like
have them on FamilyMeal yet?
I will.
Better.
Yeah, it's a pretty daunting for someone who hasn't adopted any technology
Mhm.
yet. And to keep they feel very distant. And I understand pen and paper isn't that bad of a system for some people.
Mm.
Excel spreadsheet can work sometimes, but in the end, software is kind of like as close to perfect as you can get. There are no issues. There's reminders, and once someone sees a little bit of the success, they kind of go all in. But unless you're like willing to take the leap.
Would you say that's like the biggest challenge that you've been faced with is just I guess being like a technology like evangelist for mom and pop restaurant owners, like old school type? Is that like the biggest challenge you faced?
I would say it is a challenge. Our challenge is, I'd say it's more a fun challenge where they constantly get new ideas,
Mm.
and so sometimes getting someone over the hump isn't too hard.
Mm.
It's calming them down. You can do a new menu every day and make it perfect and timed right to not interfere with service, and it's really cool to see.
Mhm.
But we try to provide a ton of human support and guidance, and that is not always scalable. So that's our biggest challenge.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot more kind of do it yourself, self-guided in the future for sure. That's always really difficult. Just some kind of last questions here that I had. Up to this point, what would you say has been some of your biggest achievements, milestones that you're most proud of? I know it's just been a couple of years since you got running, so curious, what are the big things you've accomplished?
We find milestones all the time. Um, I try to. We always joke that we're a 3-step forward, 2-step back company. It feels like we're not making progress. It feels like things are not working well, and we constantly reset and just say, okay, we haven't even been live for a year, and kind of just like when you're in the technology world, you see competitors go, fat rise and fall, and getting the ability to step back and just say, hey, we got this partner of ours incrementally $30,000 more in revenue this month. It's life-changing for them. Let's just take a second and just be proud of that. That's enough. We try to measure kind of our business success as human impact. Growing sales is great. I would say that I try to de-emphasize that as a point of the company. This is not what big investors like. I think I can prove that out economically, that we see our biggest pipeline coming from word of mouth or referrals from our existing restaurant partners. It's about 90% right now. And so that is what has given us so much confidence, is people liking us. The people that we want to like us, and that is really what carries our company forward.
Absolutely. Clearly you're so passionate about restaurants and helping restaurant owners and the human impact of uplifting these independent solopreneurs of these restaurateurs. What would you say is the grand vision for FamilyMeal? Not only FamilyMeal, but also yourself. Kind of, where are you looking to make the most impact in the future?
Yeah, I see the world of food changing, and I think it can go in a really dark direction. Like a food as fuel, food as convenient, sustenance. Let's get you a salad that's blended up in a bottle, delivered to your door every morning. I think that would really be bad for our society. I still believe in sitting around a table, eating something delicious, learning about different cultures through food. And so I just want new, exciting experiences for people, and to allow the best chefs, restaurateurs, the ones that care the most, that provide the best service, the best food, the best experience, for them to rise to the top and not have to worry about just payroll every day. That's kind of my personal mission. I'd like FamilyMeal to be the go-to place when you want to order something special. I think that if you want Domino's, they've got kind of the coolest app out there. And that's okay. FamilyMeal doesn't have to take every order from every day part for every meal. We want to be really relevant, exciting, and make sure that independent restaurants can have a voice in sort of this chain heavy environment we have now.
Yeah, very well said. Great way to cap off the conversation. Last thing, before we can wrap things up, Peter, any parting words, or where can our listeners find FamilyMeal? Either order from there if they're a diner, or learn more and sign up if they're a restaurant.
Yeah, you can just go to familymeal.com. First thing I did was buy the URL. We are changing our website up a bit and kind of reworking our social. We are fortunate enough to have enough demand where we don't need to advertise too much, but that will change as we expand across the country. But yeah, it's pretty simple. We welcome anyone to reach out anytime, and feel like we're kind of about to explode. So I'm excited, for the next year, and still thankful for the year that we had.
Thank you for tuning in to Meet the Entrepreneur. Be sure to follow Startup Society to stay on top of the most exciting startups in the country striving to keep the American dream alive. Until next time, take care.